Hi, friends, it's Vesna here. Thanks so much for stopping by. Today I have an exciting Christmas series video, so let's get going. You're going to need these cooling racks from the Dollar Tree. So, for the biggest one, I actually used four. If you don't want to make three of these ones, or if you want to make them all the same size, you can kind of custom make to whatever you want. But I wanted three different sizes. So, the first one you're going to need four, and you're going to just attach them using zip ties, which I also got from the Dollar Tree. And just to make a square, it's going to be open, so you're not going to be closing the square off. And like I said, zip ties work best, especially if you're going to be using it outdoors, because sometimes the hot glue with the change in temperatures, it doesn't hold the best. And metal and hot glue aren't the best combinations all the time either. And once you do this, if you want it to be a little bit sturdier for the outside, you might want to put in something in the corners, kind of like I did over here, just to keep it sturdy and make it a little bit heavier. Now, what we did was we used just an old pipe from like a cheap dollar store um, towel hanger, and my husband just bent it just so it would kind of make like an L shape, and he put it in the corners, and then we zip tied it together, and this just kind of helped hold the position. If you don't have these pipes or you can't bend them, I don't know how he bends these things, but he does. Then what you could do is you could use an old hanger, like a metal hanger, and take it apart and then just make an L shape just to kind of hold the shape, or anything really that you can find around the house. This is what we had, so this is what we used. And then what I'm doing is I'm taking some lights. These are actually icicle lights that we didn't wind up using in our decor, and I don't think we will use because some of them aren't working. So I'm just kind of twirling them on the inside using a zip tie to hold them together. And I will have like a clump of them on the inside as well. And this is just to give the illusion that it's a lit up present. If you don't have these or you don't want to use these, you can always use ones maybe with a timer if you can find outdoor ones that have a timer that are maybe battery operated. If you have a covered porch, the problem with me is my porch is not covered. So I have to make sure that whatever I put outside can withhold the elements, withstand the elements. So I'm using these ones which were normally outside anyway, and I will just have the little electricity just kind of underneath tucked away. And that's why I'm not closing the top either. It's just so I can have access to them. But you could close the top. You could put the next part that I'm going to show you, could put that over top and have it all closed. I just didn't want it. I wanted it to be open. But if you have a covered porch, you can even use battery operated ones if the temperature can withhold, like if the temperature outside isn't too crazy that the batteries won't work. But any of those things, or even like a USB one if you wanted to, but just make sure whatever you're using is appropriate for the outdoor elements if you're going to get it wet over there or snow or anything like that. So to hide the metal parts, because you don't want, that's not the nicest looking Christmas present. Although I'm sure if you painted and put a nice bow, it wouldn't look too bad either. But I wanted the lights and everything to be hidden. You're going to need one of these shelf liners from the Dollar Tree, actually two packages for the big one. And they come in lots of colors. I chose this white, kind of off-white creamy color, but you can choose whatever you'd like. And this you're going to attach with zip ties, and this is where you'll use just a touch of hot glue. And then you can also put zip ties through just to make sure it holds a little bit better. Now I did wrap it around twice, and it was just enough to cover pretty much the whole thing. I think there was one little part at the back where it didn't do like a double and it was just a single, but that's my back part. So I was okay with that. If you wanted it to completely cover, you could cut on piece and just cover it, but I was okay with that. And like I said, hot glue and zip ties to combine both so that it holds nice and tight. And that's it for the first one. Then for the second one, you're actually only going to need 2 of these cooling racks, because you're going to bend each one of them in the middle to make it kind of like an L shape so that you can make a box. So if you wanted them to be really small and all the same size, you could use this. You could, have them stacked one on top of the other and then connect them that way. So many options. I might go back and take them apart and just connect them that way. But for now, this is how I've done them. But like I said, this is so customizable. I'm glad I saw this, and I saw this on a video, but I can't remember if it was a YouTuber or a blog where I saw it. But if you're watching and you did something like this, and I mean, I guess I'll give you credit, whoever it is. I just don't know who I saw it with. They did it a little bit differently. They didn't do the big one like I did. So, I got the idea from it, and then I made it my own, as I do with a lot of things. But anyway, then I continued to attach them with the zip ties and make my squares. So once you make your shape and you attach it with your zip ties, you're going to need that roll of shelf liner again. And you're going to double wrap this one as well and attach it with the zip ties. So once you get the shelf liner on that one, then you can go to the next one. And the next one is going to be even smaller, and I'm just going to actually go ahead and use one of the shelf racks, cooling racks. And I'm going to actually just bend it at each of the sections to make a square. This you have to be careful, because you can break it if you bend too hard or too fast or too much. So just really gently bend it until you get your shape. So what I did was I did the outside ones first, and then I did the middle. Like I said, be careful so you don't break it. And then again, you use your zip ties to hold them and connect them, and then you wrap it around with your shelf liner. So I believe I used 4 shelf liners with a little bit left over. But if you decide to not double wrap it, then you may use even less. And like I said, use a combination of the hot glue and the zip ties to attach the shelf liner as well. You kind of do it on the inside, so that way you don't see it from your second layer of shelf liner, and that's all there is to it. Then you just put the lights in, and you find a spot where you want the electricity coming out of, and I wound up actually attaching all 3 together with a zip tie at the bottom, so that they would be just a little bit heavier in case we had winds. And then I also use these ribbons from the Dollar Tree just to make it look like a present. And with the bow, I'm not going to show you how I did the bow. I told you I'm not good at the tutorials, so I just kind of did a bow my own way. Thank you so much for watching. And I'm starting with a candy cane pillow. Now, I found this one, like I said, at Pottery Barn, and it is being sold for 84 American dollars. So I'm in Canada, so that's even quite a bit more in Canadian. And I thought I could recreate it, at least the look of it, with some Dollar Tree items. Now, I started off with a candy cane shaped wreath that I had from the Dollar Tree, and I just removed the bow from it, but I kept everything else on it because I thought it would kind of hide the metal part of it a little bit better and provide a little bit of cushioning. These are decorative pillows, so they wouldn't be pillows that you lay on. If you wanted this to be a pillow to lay on, you could just use this shape to cut out the material and then sew it on. I wanted to do a tutorial without sewing just because I find that a lot of people may not have a sewing machine or may not have sewing skills. My sewing skills aren't very good. I usually get quite frustrated when I try to do some sewing. So I thought this would be a better alternative. So what I did was I wrapped this around. Now I folded my tree skirt, which is what I'm using as my white material. You could also use which I will use in one of my other decorative pillows, the the rags that they have in the car section at the Dollar Tree. They're very soft and they're perfect for pillowcases. But for this one, I wanted to use the tree skirt, like tree skirt covered kind of things that they have, tree blankets that they have at the Dollar Tree. And they're white and they're kind of like a felt material. So what I did was I folded it over because it's quite thin. So that way you wouldn't see the stuff showing through, and it would provide a little bit more cushion so you wouldn't know that it's actually a candy cane form in there. And so what I did was I cut out my shape, I wrapped it around, and then I wrapped it around one more time, and I hot glued everything together. I added a little bit of pillow filling that I had from a pillow from the Dollar Tree that the cover was looking kind of rough, so I cut it open and I just used the stuffing on the inside, and I just gently stuffed this one just in the crevices and in between before I did the second layer of fabric. And it's just to provide a little bit of cushion so it does look more like a pillow rather than metal covered in fabric. So after I wrapped everything up twice and glued it and stuffed it, what I did was I wound up wrapping some, well, I was going to start with this red ribbon that you can see here around the candy cane so it looks like a candy cane. But I didn't like how inflexible the ribbon was, so it was kind of hard. So I switched over to some burlap. The burlap I bought at the Dollar Tree. I think it was Dollar Tree. It could have been Dollarama. Dollarama in Canada is kind of probably like your Dollar General. It's usually not many things are a buck. Like a dollar, they're usually $2 to $3. So I bought a roll of red ribbon a while back and I had some left over. So I wound up using that. I wound up hot gluing little strips. I just made sure that they went around the whole thing. And I found that was a little bit more flexible and a little bit more forgiving. And I just thought it looked a little bit better on the candy cane than this ribbon. So play around with what you want to use. I did go later on after I finished these projects. I went to the Dollar Tree just to see, because our Dollar Tree here sometimes has items from Halloween that are 50% off. So I wanted to pick some things up, but they were all gone. But I did notice that they had a lot of different shawls and scarves and socks that are like that fuzzy material that you could use on the candy cane too. So just kind of see what your Dollar Tree has and see what you can use. Or if you have something at home that you want to use, you could use felt too. Anyway, so this is what I did for this one. So I just kind of wrapped it like a candy cane in little strips. And it was super easy to make and very inexpensive. I mean, the tree skirt was a buck 50 and the strips, I mean, I only used a few, but let's say you had to get a whole new ribbon, so about $2, buck 50, $2. And the stuffing, whatever, if you bought a pillow at the dollar store, then it would just be a buck 50 too. So not a whole lot of money at all, and I think it looks cute. It's a very, very cute decorative pillow, just adds a little pop of color and a pop of Christmas to your Christmas decor. So let me know if you think I nailed the look or if you think it was a complete flop. But for, under $5 versus $85, I think I did pretty good. So the next pillow that I recreated was this Joy pillow. Now, mine is slightly different. I didn't use a horizontal pillow. I used just a normal square pillow. I didn't use a rectangle pillow, but you could use any kind. I had this one that's kind of already Christmas on one side, so I thought I'd make it a double-sided pillow. This I picked up at the dollar store as well, and this was like super easy to make. So I had some leftover vintage ribbon and I had leftover fabrics, so I just used those to create my joy sign, to create my joy letters. You could use really anything you wanted to. The Dollar Tree has a ton of different ribbons and fabrics for Christmas, and even those shawls that I was talking about that they have like the thin kind of silky shawls that are all sorts of different patterns on them, so you could use any of those. Or if you had a cricket, you could also use vinyl. They do have, I've seen at Dollar Tree, like a kind of like a plaid checkered vinyl, so you could use some of those. I don't know if they have a Christmas vinyl, but I'm sure you can pick some up somewhere. And like the HTV. Oh, actually, yeah, if you wanted HTV, Dollar Tree doesn't have it. But if you had some left over, all sorts of different colors, you could use your Cricut to cut those ones out as well. I also used one of these elf feet, and because I like the color of the fabric on the legs, so I just cut that out and I used that as my Y. And because I have several of these feet, I bought them last year. I must have had an idea for a project, but then didn't get to it. So I just wound up using those. Hopefully I won't need it, and if I do, then it is okay. I have another one. And I just hot glued these to the pillow, made sure that they were the same size, cut them out by hand. You could use your Cricut for sure, but or any other device that you have, these were easy to do by hand. So I just did them and I think they turned out really cute. And again, for the cost savings, like the pillow itself was quite expensive, just even for the pillowcase. So this is quite a bit of a savings, even if you were to get a rectangle pillow that wasn't from the dollar from Walmart or something, they're probably $5, $6. So still a significant savings to the Pottery Barn one, and I think I nailed the look. You let me know what you think, whether you think that I nailed this look or not, but I'm confident that I did nail the look. So here's the finished look. Let me know what you think of this one. I really like this one. I think it turned out really cute, and that little pop of color with the joy looks fabulous. Again, let me know if you think I nailed it or if I am way out to lunch and it looks nothing like the original. In today's video, I'm going to be creating a floral arrangement for Christmas, and I'm using this thrifted wooden box. I got this for $2.99 at our local thrift store, so super cheap. Then I'm going to insert this floral foam, which I also got at the thrift store. I got 5 of them, I believe, for $2.99, so really cheap. And I'm using the whole piece, and then I'm going to be using 9 different Christmas picks, and they're just an assortment of little floral branches with some berries, and they're the frosted ones. So today's DIY is super duper easy. I apparently really like that word. It's very easy to do, and it's very cost effective, and I really like the way these Christmas arrangements look. I always do a whole bunch of fresh ones as well, and this arrangement reminds me of the fresh ones that I do. So when you're putting these together, you want to make sure that they're not too high, because it's not going to look nice, or it's not going to look right. So I'm going to be using my my wire cutters to cut them. Now, normally if I were to do it so that the back would show as well, I would do either the same for front and back, or sometimes if I have a wide range, like when I'm doing the fresh ones, and you could do this with the full ones too, I wind up doing like a higher layer at the back just to fill in, and then a lower layer at the front. But because of the way the size of this and the way these little branches are, I don't need to do that. You'll see. It looks good from both sides, but I'm only going to be using it like against a wall, so I didn't need to worry how the back would look, and I didn't want to waste money on extra picks if it didn't really matter. So I'm starting with the picks that don't have any flowers. They're just little branches, and I'm putting those on the sides, and then in the middle I'm putting the ones with the flowers, and then I just fill them in as I go. So these ones with the berries I put in here. I really apologize for the angle. I'm not sure how I didn't see that this was the angle, but it is what it is. So this is one without any flowers, and they're just different textures. One looks like an evergreen. This looks like the boxwood. Just all is a little bit frosted. And I cut them off, and like I said, I fill them in, making sure that, I have symmetry, so both sides are equal. And this one I actually take apart so I can kind of fill in, and then you'll see as I go along. Now I'm not going to talk through the whole video. I'm going to turn some music on and I'll just let you know as I go what I add in. So I add some red as well, and you'll see the finished product soon. As I'm filling this in, it's starting to look really good. Like I said, I really apologize. I got a new swing arm, trying to find the best angle to record for you guys because I found my other ways it wasn't giving me the quality picture that I wanted. So I tried this way. It's still not working. So I've had my husband come up with a solution. So I'll display that in my next video. But you can see it's getting fuller here. Now I do want to add a bow to this, so I thought I was going to use this old shirt that we had because it has this like buffalo plaid pattern that I really like, but I could not, because it's all cut all funny, I could not get a nice straight piece that would go all the way around. So I opted not to do it, but you could totally, if you had a nice long piece like this, you could do it. So as you can see, I tried, and then I was thinking if I folded it, but it just wasn't looking right. So oftentimes, if I plan something, I wind up doing something else just because it what I envisioned in my head is not what happens with the DIY. So, but I always like to show this to you guys so you can see the thought process kind of behind my DIYs. So after I figure out that I don't like that, I go ahead and I use this ribbon. It's from the Dollar Tree. It's not as thick as I wanted it to be, but it actually looks quite good, and I think these colors look a lot better than the black and white because I have so much red and green in here. So I was happy with the way this turned out, and as I've mentioned to you in my other videos, I am not a bow maker, so I'm just making just like a basic bow here, and I'm gonna hot glue it to the pot, and that's about it. Like, so I just make the bow like you would kind of tie your shoelaces, and then I just make another bow from that same piece, and then I just hot glued it together. I'm sorry that you can't see, but I'll show you what it looks like finished. So my inspiration came from the Kirkland's website. So this arrangement cost $39 there. So for Canadian money, that would be well over $50. And my version cost just under $14, and I think they're pretty similar, and they're just as nice, both of them. So it just shows you how much cheaper you can get things and you can make things. We don't have a Kirkland's here, so I couldn't, I mean, even if we ordered it would be even more, but just to show you, you know, the between the $40 and $50 mark is what this would cost, and like I said, mine cost just under $14, and that's assuming I used the whole ribbon, which I only used a portion of it. So here's the finished piece, with a much better angle. You can see the container. It looks like it's like a birch bark container. It has the nice little bow that has the plaid on the one side, and then on the other side it has the little white snowflakes. So I think it goes really nicely with the red berries in the container. I'm so happy with it. It's very farmhousey, natural, woodsy look that I'm going for. If you liked it, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed. Leave me a comment, tell me what you think, and make sure you check out the hosts of this challenge as well as the playlist and my videos here at the end. And don't forget to stop by. My next video will be coming out on the 27th. So I really love these little red pickup trucks from the Dollar Tree. I also really love the like die cast ones that are big. However, they're quite expensive. So I thought, hey, why don't I make my own? So I got two of these little red trucks from the Dollar Tree, as well as this crate, the mini crates that they have at the Dollar Tree as well. And I'm going to be making a little red truck. So I will start off by removing these Christmas trees. So I was carefully removing the trees because I will be saving them for a different project. And they're great shape and they're perfect for Christmas. I will have to paint over them and I'll take off the garland that they have around, but they'll be perfect. So now I'm going to go ahead and scrape off this Merry Christmas because I really don't want it on here. So I'm just using a scraper here to try and get off as much as I can. And I will sand a bit down too. And you don't have to do this if you like that Merry Christmas, but I wanted to get rid of it. And sometimes when you paint over the glitter, it still shows, so I wanted to get rid of it. So now I will go ahead and I'm going to paint my little truck using this espresso paint, a little bit of white. There we go. Some black acrylic paint. And some red acrylic paint, all of them from the Dollar Tree. And I'm gonna make kind of like more like a burgundy kind of red because I didn't want the truck to be this holiday red. It's a little bit too bright for me, so I'm just gonna mix some colors. So I'm mixing the red with a bit of the brown and a bit of the black. And first I'll start off with just painting it out red to get it to be that red color, and then I'll mix in some of the other colors. So I do wind up painting both sides of one of the pickup trucks because I will be putting it on the, like I have to flip it over, so I need the other side. And the reason I painted the inside was because I didn't want like through the sides or anywhere the Merry Christmas peeking out, so I just kind of painted a little bit over top of that one. I won't show you the whole process, but I'll show you what it looks like finished because I think you kind of can clue in on how to paint your little pickup truck. So like I said, I did sand though a little bit just to get that Merry Christmas off as much as I could. So the crate, I'm going to paint black. I'm painting it on the inside and outside of the little bin because I want to make sure that when I switch it out for a different season, because I will be using this for the fall as well for decorating, if I decide to put pumpkins or something that's not so bulky like Christmas trees, it's not going to show the light color of the crate. So once that's nice and dry, as you can see, I did only the top parts of the crate, but inside fully. I'm going to hot glue it to one side of the pickup truck, and then I'm going to hot glue and well bond, I believe I used, for the other side. Now I did have to remove those little tire rims off of the one pickup truck because they it wouldn't let me have like a nice flush glue. So, and I did save them so I could use them on the other side once I finished painting the other side of the one pickup truck. So once both sides were painted, I glued them and then I just clamped them. Even though I used the weld bond, it still needs a little bit of clamping for it to stick, otherwise it was falling over. So now I'm just going to measure out my popsicle sticks. Originally I was going to cut them to size so that they would be flush with the pickup trucks, but I was worried that I wouldn't cut them evenly, and quite frankly it would have taken me a really long time, and I don't like when the cuts aren't perfect, so I thought this would be better to just leave it whole. So that's what I'm planning out here. So once I've placed all of the popsicle sticks, it's time to paint them, and I'm going to be painting them that same combination of red, brown, and black as I did the pickup truck. This time I'm just mixing the colors together, whereas the first time I painted it red and then I just went over with a mixture. So after I paint the top of the pickup truck red, I decide that I need a little bit of height to the crates. So I'm adding some like little rails on the side, and I'm doing that with one garden pick. So you could also use a paint stick too, but these are garden picks from the Dollar Tree that I got this summer. Garden stakes, I should say. And I'm cutting it in half, and I'm using one on each side, and then I'm just using some popsicle sticks to make kind of like a to hold it basically up. But so I'm using 4 popsicle sticks and 1 garden pick. So here's what that looks like. And I've also gone ahead and painted it black. So I then went ahead and I put some floral foam in there, and just to give it a bit of height, and then I'm adding some Christmas trees to make it appear like the little red truck is carrying Christmas trees. So I also went ahead and I painted kind of the top part of the hood, just added a little bit of black detail, some lights, and I painted the windshield white, and there he is. I'm really happy with this DIY. The little black that I added to the painting as well looks really good. So this is what I was talking about, going over with a different color. I just think he turned out so cute, and it's a big truck. I mean, it's a little red truck, but it's a big truck considering how expensive these can be. This cost, under $5 for all of this stuff. And as you can see, I painted in the wheels, and then I decided it would be even neat to add some lights in it if you wanted to. So these are just the twinkle light or fairy lights from the Dollar Tree. So this cutting board was painted black, and then using the Rust-Oleum charcoal black, chalked black paint, and then I painted it with the linen white. And then now I'm adding Mod Podge. Now this was from a different project where I tried to do something and it didn't work out. So as you can see, it's all peeling off. So now I'm just adding Mod Podge to the entire piece so more paint does not peel off before I go ahead and I add my image on there. So the Mod Podge will hopefully allow for the paint not to peel off, like if I ding it or anything like that. And now I just want to distress it a little bit further. I thought I would sand it and get the reason I had originally painted it black was because I thought I could paint it black, then paint it white and distress it, and it would look really nice. But now because I didn't use it for that project, it was for project this summer, I'm going to just distress it with some espresso brown acrylic paint. Just because I am worried if I start to distress too much, I'll get the red showing, and I don't want the red showing. When I do this distressing, I always kind of try to dry the paint off on a paper towel or something as much as I can, so it's a really dry brush. And sometimes if I find I've added too much, I'll just wipe it off with a paper towel or a baby wipe. This time it's a dry baby wipe, but sometimes I use wet baby wipes to just kind of blend the colors together. But this time was just a dry baby wipe that had dried out. And then I'm just kind of randomly putting the distressing on. And then I'll go ahead and use some black acrylic paint and some pumpkin colored acrylic paint to do the little snowman. So here's the completed snowman. I did wind up adding a bow, and you can tell me which one you like better, whether you like the bow or no bow on this snowman. But here he is without the bow. I think he's cute this way too. I'm not sure where I'll put him in my decor. He'll go somewhere, probably in my kitchen since it's a cutting board. I'm not going to cut food on it, obviously, but I think he's really cute. And then here he is with just a bow that I added. A super simple bow that I made just by using some ribbon and hot gluing. Again, I've told you guys before I'm not the best bow maker, so I just, I don't usually film myself making them. So let me know which one you think is nicer. So to not least, I'm going to be using these like Rubik's Cubes from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be creating a nice little joy sign from these blocks. Originally I wanted to use the foam dice, but I could not find them, so I thought this would be as good as anything else to use. And I'm going to be painting them with my Rust-Oleum chalked linen white paint. I was trying to show it to you there, but I didn't have it in the frame for some reason. And but it's the Rust-Oleum chalked linen white. I have a really big container of it because I use it quite a bit. It goes a really long way, so if you're looking for a decently priced chalked paint, that is a really good one to go with. After about 3 coats, I got them to the way I wanted them to be, and now I'm just going to be freehand drawing the letter J onto these blocks, and it's just so that I can paint over it and not, because if I try to do freehand painting I usually make a mistake. So this is just so I can kind of follow the guide of the writing instead of doing a stencil, because I didn't think I needed a stencil for 3 letters. For the paint, I'm using again the Holiday Red from the Dollar Tree, and it's just an acrylic paint, and I'm going over the drawn letters with just that paint. I'm not mixing it with anything. I don't have a dirty brush. Sometimes I have brushes that have black on it or brown. Purposely I don't clean them off because I want to have that color, but for this one I'm just using the red itself, and I put a good amount on it. After I add the red paint for the joy, I clean my brush off a little bit just with a paper towel, and then I add some black, and again I dry brush the black around to give it like a distressed effect. Don't worry if you get too much distressing on, you can always wipe it off and just add more of the paint that you used originally, like the white paint, and then it'll just blend in and you won't even be able to tell. For the little bit there, I actually used a paint pen because I found that I was trying to use a brush but it didn't work out, so I used a paint pen which covered it beautifully. Again, you pick and choose which you need to use, what will work best for you. This is what worked for me. So once all of this dried off, I went ahead and added a little bit of greenery just to show you guys what it could look like with and without. So here is the finished piece. So I just love the rustic farmhouse feel of this joy here. You could add something green like this if you wanted to, depending on where you're using it. I'm not sure where it'll go. Again, I'm decorating soon, so you'll see it over on my home channel. But if you didn't want to add, here's what it just looks like without it. It's pretty rustic. It's exactly what I was going for. A lot of my decor is this way. So if you like this kind of stuff, make sure you I'm using the bamboo cutting board from the Dollar Tree, and I am spray painting it with the Rust-Oleum Colonial Red spray paint. I also love these spray paints as well, but they're a little bit more pricier than the other one. And I spray paint it once, and then again I'm using another design from Creative Fabrica, and I've cut it out with my Cricut again on that stenciling vinyl. And I am just again using my shelf liner as transfer paper, and I'm going to dab it with some of that white Deco Art chalk paint. Now, I just want you to look at my table. My table is a mess because I'm also creating another video for Tuesday, so the stuff from that video is there. I start off with a really nice clean working space, and by the time I'm done my crafting, it looks like a disaster because I don't put it away right away because I'm using everything, and then 99% of the time I'm in a rush because the kids need me or something for work or dinner or whichever. I've gotten out of the habit. We have soccer now in the mornings on the weekends, so I'm kind of with one, either with one child at soccer or with the other child at home. So I'm not doing my crafting like I was in the summer, where I just kind of went and I did it in the morning or while they were sleeping. Now it's all kind of thrown off. So anyway, I'm dabbing using that stenciling brush again to apply the paint. Actually, sorry, for this one I'm not using my stenciling brush. I'm just using one of these little foam dabbers from the Dollar Tree. And I'm dabbing on the paint. And whenever you're doing these signs, I don't think I mentioned it in the other one, you want to kind of wipe off the excess paint so you're not caking on too much. You're better off doing 2 coats than putting too much paint on at once. So I did 2 coats of the white paint, and then I dry brushed white around this as well, and a little bit more on the edges, and then all over top. And I wanted it to kind of look like it was almost like sugary, powdered sugary, I guess, or whatever you want to say, and a little bit aged. I always like everything to be a little bit aged. So this is what I'm showing you right here. And I love the way this turned out. So here's the finished piece. Let me know what you think. Tell me which one is your favorite. So for the first one, I'm going to be using this Tremclad flat white spray paint. It's just a spray paint I had on hand. And I'm going to be using this Christmas tree and a crate. Don't worry about this square. I will be using this as well, but I'm going to be using the crate for this DIY, as well as some foam blocks from the Dollar Tree and some red spray paint. I will also use some vinyl to cut out for my writing, and then that's all there is to this DIY. Actually, there'll be a little bit of a ribbon as well. So what I've done is I've spray painted the Christmas tree. I've written down the numbers on my little foam blocks using a paint pen, and I've cut out Christmas countdown using a child's font from DaFont, and I wanted it to look like a child had written down Christmas countdown, and I actually did Xmas countdown. I know some people really don't like that being used for Christmas, but for this I thought it would be really cute as a little child's countdown. So I just removed my vinyl, and I always use transfer paper for transferring the vinyl because when you have like a sign or anything like that, it tends to stretch quite a bit. So I apply that, and you have to be really careful because when you have little thin fonts, it wants to raise up. So just when you're pulling it off, just be careful. So this video is a part of the DIY collab that Domestic Diva hosts, and it's a great collab because there's a whole bunch of creators that come together and we create a playlist of different DIYs that we're doing. The theme for this month is Christmas. So if you haven't had a chance to check out this challenge, make sure you check it out. I'll have the playlist linked in my description, and I'll have Sonia over at Domestic Diva DIY. I'll have her information linked in my description below as well. Make sure you check her out. She is one super talented lady. Once I get my vinyl on there, I wanted to put a little bit of a bow up top, and I thought I could put it kind of halfway down. Then I didn't like that, so I put it a little bit higher, and I still didn't like that. So then I took some ribbon and I just added like a bow to the top that kind of flowed down, and I really liked the way that turned out. And again, I just made a little bow, tying it kind of like you would a shoelace, and just hot glued it on. There was a little crack in the Christmas tree, so I was just adding some glue to fix it up. So after I added all of that, I just touched up some of the cubes because the paint had kind of ripped off when it was drying, and I put it in, and there's my countdown. I think it's really, really cute. What do you think? It is snowflakes, which I got at Dollar Tree, and they're just different sizes, and they're not sticky at the back. They're just little wood cutouts, and I'm spray painting them in that same Tremclad flat white spray paint. And I'm also using a bamboo cutting board, and this is another super easy one. All of these are really quick and easy DIYs. So I'm just going to be, once these snowflakes dry, I'm going to be creating a Christmas tree. So I just kind of try to figure out how I want the sizing to work and the pattern. This is totally personal preference, so kind of play around with it and see what you like. It all depends on what size your snowflakes are and which ones you wind up buying. The only tricky thing with this one is that I noticed that I wanted my board to be darker after I put this on, after I hot glued them on. So I went back and I stained it with the Rust-Oleum decorative glaze in Java. Now, before you hot glue your pieces down, kind of take a look at your board and see if you like it. And if you're going to write in words, so kind of the reason I wound up staining it darker is I didn't really like the way the words looked that I wrote down. You'll see what I mean a little bit later. So I kind of went back and tried to mute them and make them look kind of like they're faded. They were just a little bit too dark and too rich. So kind of play around with that before you use a Sharpie. I should have done that before, and I knew, it's like when I was writing with that Sharpie, I knew that I'm like, oh, I should have just made sure I liked it before I committed to a Sharpie, but live and learn. So that's kind of something that I would have done differently, but I still like the way it turned out. I did wind up using one more thing, the same ribbon that I used in the DIY before, and I covered the Merry Christmas. I didn't like the way I wrote it freehand, so I covered it up with that ribbon, and like I said, I went over top with decorative glaze and everything just to mute everything down. So I wrapped the ribbon over top a few times, and I wanted it to kind of look like it was kind of coming off. So I wanted like different levels to it, so that's what I did. So I just used a little bit of Dollar Tree sandpaper, and I just, like I said, sanded down the words a little bit, and then I applied the decorative glaze first with a paper towel, and then I kind of worked it in, and then I used a brush to get it in between. I did get it a little bit on the snowflakes, so I used a baby wipe to remove it. That's why I said it's easier if you do all these things before you attach your Christmas tree, like your little snowflakes, but I think it turned out really cute regardless, and here is the finished piece. Let me know what you think. I'm using, again, this spray paint, and I'm using this square plank, and it's from the Dollar Tree, to create my DIY. And I only need one coat of this. And then I'm also using these trucks from the Dollar Tree. They're ornament trucks. I'm not using these Christmas lights. My son just put them in my hand, gave them to me, so I put them on the table, so you might see his little hands grabbing them over here. But I remove the ornament, and I remove all the little hooks off of the ornament, and then I hot glue it to the bottom of the truck, leaving a little bit of space because I will also be using that same ribbon. So basically I used one roll of that ribbon for the entire, like for all three DIYs. So it went a long way, and then I used a little bit of a different kind of ribbon for the bow on this as well. And again, like I said, this is a super easy one, and I had a snowflake left over. You can see it in the corner there from the first DIY, so I put that on here as well. And then I distress it with that Rust-Oleum decorative glaze to give it more of a rustic look. And that's basically all there is to it. I do, like I said, wrap at the bottom some of that ribbon and at the top, and then I do like a little bow just using little strips of ribbon. And then I add a little bell, which is from a bell garland from the Dollar Tree that I had left over actually from last year. So after I get everything glued on, I use a pencil this time. I'm a little bit smarter than I was with the previous DIY, and I write in the words Christmas trees, and I put a little arrow. I'm using a red Sharpie to go over top of the Christmas trees wording, and then I'm using a black Sharpie for the arrow. And that's all there is to this one. Another super easy one. These can be tray decor pieces. These can be little accents in your vignettes. It can be anything. They're just cute little Dollar Tree DIYs that are super fun and super easy to make. And I think they turned out great. Look at this guy. Look how cute he is. So to start, I am going to be using some fabric from the Dollar Tree to create my Christmas tree on this wooden plaque that I also got from the Dollar Tree. So before I added the fabric, I actually spray painted it with some heirloom white spray paint, and I'll show you the bottle a little bit later on in the video, in the episode. And it's just a spray paint from Rust-Oleum. It's more like an antique white, so I spray painted it out in that color. And then I just cut little strips from this leftover fabric from last year from the Dollar Tree. I haven't seen it this year now. I have not been going a lot to the Dollar Tree, to be honest with you. I'm trying not to spend so much money at the Dollar Tree because it gets very, very expensive. So I just cut it into strips, and I eyeballed the size of the strips. I try to make them some longer, some shorter, and I wound up just cutting them to size as I was putting the tree together. So it doesn't really matter what size you cut them bigger, and then you can cut them to size however you wind up having them, like how big you want to make them, which ones you want at the bottom. It really is up to you. So you're gonna see kind of what I did, and then you can kind of take it from there when you make your own. And you can use any fabric. You don't have to use Christmas fabric. It's whatever fabric you have left over. If you have like a color scheme that you're going with for your DIY for your Christmas, you could use this in your color scheme. But these are the fabrics I had left over, and I thought they would be really cute on a Christmas tree. So some of the pieces I wound up twisting and then hot gluing in the middle and then putting them down. Other pieces I tied in the middle and then hot glued them down. So again, it just depends whatever look you're going for. It just depended if the piece was a little bit too long, and I was afraid that if I cut it, it wouldn't match up. So then I just made like a little clump, and they all kind of look like they have clumps in the middle. If you wanted to be really precise and have everything kind of be like super lined up, you could also put one of those wood dowels down. Not wood dowels, like, or you could use a dowel, but you could use the skewers from like the barbecue section that they have at the Dollar Tree and just glue it down the middle, so then you have something like a point and you could tie the ribbons around it. I've seen that done before, but to me this was easier and I did not want the wood piece on there, so I liked the way this turned out, and I just alternated the fabrics. I also tried to kind of point the fabrics up a little bit just so that it would look kind of like a Christmas tree. I always do that with my branches too. I kind of aim them upwards. And then at the end, I just put a snowflake sticker, and then at the bottom I just did a piece of a tumble block that I had, and I hot glued it to the bottom, and I painted everything in a black color. I also dry brushed around the piece, so here's what that looks like. And I just dry brushed the black around because I thought it would just give it more of that rustic feel. And I always like the dry brushing and the antiquing and all of that stuff. I haven't done black in a long time, but I really like the way this turned out. I think it's really, really cute, and it'll look awesome in a tray. I will have a tray decor video next week, not next week, the 16th coming out, so I hope you do check that out. That episode will be over on Vesna TV Home. So make sure you check that out. I'll have it posted in my community as well. And then for the next DIY ever, I'm ashamed to even call it a DIY. So I like to save Christmas cards that we get, and this is one from last year that I saved. And what I'm doing is I'm taking this frame from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to be cutting this old Christmas card to size. So what I do is I take out the little picture that's in the frame and I kind of use it as my guide of where I'm going to cut. And then I cut it to size and I put the little card in there, and that is the DIY. I love this frame. I don't want to stain it or paint it or anything. You could if you wanted to. You could use any old frame that you had, but this is the one that I used, and I've used it for Halloween too, and I just love the way it looks, and it's so easy and anyone can do it. Just save your Christmas cards or buy new ones if there's really nice ones that you like. Sometimes not all of us have printers that we can print images, and maybe we don't want to be, you know, maybe we don't even have a hot glue gun or something like that. So this is something simple that you can do and create really cute decor for Christmas or for any holiday. And you can use that frame for Christmas, for Halloween, for Easter, and just change out the picture. So it could be something really inexpensive that you do. You could even take like from magazines or flyers or something. If there's like a picture of a Christmas tree or something that you like, you could use that too. And that could be even simpler and even cheaper. Let me know what you think of this one. And on to the next one. The next DIY, I have this jar. This is not Dollar Tree, but you can get these jars at the Dollar Tree. I've used these jars so many times. They're from Peaches that we get at Costco. And I'm painting out the jar in that heirloom white. And I'm painting the lid out in a metallic gold paint. And they're both, one is Rust-Oleum, one is Rona brand. Rona is, well, they were bought out by Lowe's now, but they were a Canadian company. Um, so this is their brand of the metallic paint. We still have a few of them around. And then I'm also using this Merry Christmas card from from the Dollar Tree. It was just a set of cards. And I'm going to be Mod Podging it onto the jar itself. Then I'll be using some jute rope and I'll be tying that around the top of the jar, and then I'm going to add some embellishments. And the embellishments are just like one of those little trees from the Dollar Tree, the bottlenose tree. I think bottlenose trees is what they're called, and just two little. I always want to call them acorns, and they are not acorns. My gosh, the English word is escaping me. Pine cones. So I start off by cutting out the image kind of to the size that I want it to be. I wanted to keep the Merry Christmas, but it was just too big, and to cut it down so it would fit, it would just, I didn't like the way it would look. So I wound up just using the car image, which at the end turned out to be great. So what I do is I cut out the image and then I wet it around with a paper towel, and then I use my hand to just kind of rip off the pieces around it so that way it looks kind of vintagey. So I Mod Podge the image to the jar, and be generous with the Mod Podge. Add lots at the bottom and then lots over top. There was just a little piece that was kind of sticking up, so I wound up hot gluing that down because the way the image is, it's kind of like a puffed up image. So I wound up hot gluing just the little pieces that were sticking out too much and not gluing down. And then I hot glued the jute rope around and added my embellishments. And at the end, I wound up dry brushing some black around. This episode had a lot of black dry brushing, which, like I said, I haven't done in a while, but I really like the way it looks. I did it for some of the Halloween stuff, and now I kind of am going back to doing it again because I like the way it looks. So here's the finished piece, and again, I love it. It's so cute. It'll just look like a nice little tray decor piece. Now, I won't use all of these in one tray. That's why I didn't want to really put them, showcase them in a tray. I'll kind of use them in different trays to add to what I already have. So this last DIY is more of a makeover than a DIY. I picked up the ceramic truck at the Dollar Tree and I just gave it an uplift. So I painted it, and what I did was I used that heirloom white that I used throughout the project, the spray paint, and I spray painted it all in white. And see how it gives it more of a yellow color rather than that clear white, or that crisp clean white. And then I just went and I dry brushed black all around it, and I added some to the tires, and then just any of the grooves I added black to it. And I did it on both sides, and then I painted the Christmas tree in black and the wreath black, and then I added some red to the bow on the wreath, and that's all there was to it. I actually also used a Sharpie because it has this little Mary banner that goes around the truck. So I used a Sharpie just to kind of outline the triangles, and then I did go with a brush over top in a different kind of green, but I used like a lighter green to go over top of those, and then I used a black Sharpie to go over top of the words where it says Mary. And so here it is, all finished and painted, and I think it turned out really cute, and it'll go great in a tray. I'll have to probably prop it up a little bit so that you can see it, but that's it right there. So let me know what you think of these, which one was your favorite, and make sure you come back next week for another Christmas episode, Christmas DIY episode. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day, and don't forget to like and subscribe.